Jennifer, a young Alabamian with freckles scattered across her nose and an intense flame in her brown eyes, was known in her small hometown as the most talented hairstylist in the area. Born into a humble family, she was the youngest of three sisters, each with their own dreams. Jennifer's dreams, however, were always more ambitious. Shortly after completing high school, she enrolled in a renowned hairstyling course, experiencing a rapid and remarkable rise. In no time, Jennifer enjoyed considerable respect in a local salon, but she knew that it was not her ultimate destination. That town was too small for her dreams, and the salary, however fair, was not enough for her to achieve her aspirations. So, with a determined sieve and a heart full of hope, Jennifer packed her bags and set off for New York, the city that never sleeps, in search of making a name for herself in the beauty industry. In New York, fate smiled upon Jennifer when she crossed paths with Casey. Casey, a vibrant and outgoing young woman, was looking for a roommate. Their encounter was a virtual coincidence through a Facebook community, but it quickly developed into a real and enduring friendship. Casey and Jennifer became inseparable despite their notable differences. Jennifer, always dedicated and focused, spent most of her time at home honing her hair styling skills, studying new techniques and trends, always seeking improvement. Casey, on the other hand, was the opposite: sociable, charismatic, and always ready for a party. Her magnetic personality allowed her to quickly rise through the ranks at the gas station where she worked, starting as a pump attendant and reaching the position of manager. Casey dreamed of getting rich but had no concrete plan. She flirted with questionable investment schemes and was always willing to try her luck in the lottery. Her attempts, however, never amounted to much. Regardless, she was responsible with the household bills. In the end, Jennifer and Casey were like two sides of a coin, different but completing each other. Their distinct personalities brought harmony to their shared routine, strengthening the blossoming friendship between them. Upon arriving in New York, Jennifer landed a job at one of the city's most renowned salons. The sophisticated architecture and bright lights of the salon represented everything Jennifer had dreamed of. The salon was a world of glamour and talent where she felt at home, cutting, dining, and styling the hair of a high-class clientele who constantly praised her skill and creativity. The other hairstylists, however, looked at Jennifer with envy, whispering among themselves as they saw her receive more compliments. Jennifer, however, never let it get to her. She remained focused on her work and her dreams of one day becoming a manager or perhaps owning her own beauty salon. In the second year of her stay in the city, Jennifer met Rocky, a charming young man who frequented the same coffee shop as her every morning. It was one of those mornings, as the sun rose on the horizon and the city woke up, that Rocky finally approached Jennifer. "You have such a serene way of enjoying your coffee that it made me want to get to know you better," he said. Rocky's charm was undeniable, despite his professional inconsistency and lack of money. Rocky possessed impressive eloquence. Jennifer was seduced by his smooth talk and found herself madly in love. 3 months passed, and Jennifer, swept away by love, decided to move in with Rocky. Casey, always the voice of reason, tried to advise Jennifer. "Jen, maybe you should give it more time. We don't need to rush, right?" But Jennifer was so in love that she couldn't hear her friend's advice. After all, when it came to love, time was just a formality to her. When the heart chooses, no reason can convince it otherwise. Moving into Rocky's house plunged Jennifer into a whirlwind of conflicts and frustrations. The cohabitation, which seemed sweet and pleasant during their brief encounters, was now a constant torture. Rocky, with his faked charm and empty promises, seemed like a completely different man from that one Jennifer had fallen for. He would often approach her, his gaze downcast, his tone of voice almost pleading. "Jen, could you lend me your credit card again?" I have a new business opportunity in mind, and I am sure this time it will work out. We need that extra money, he would say. Despite the countless times Jennifer gave in, the outcome was always the same. The promising business turned out to be a failure, and the investments vanished like smoke. Jennifer found herself having to cover expenses with the hard-earned money she made at the salon. Life seemed like a constant cycle of disappointments for Rocky. Within a short period, he was let go from 2 jobs. He spent his days at home, sometimes promising to look for work, sometimes just wasting time in front of the television, while Jennifer worked tirelessly at the salon. Jennifer worked relentlessly, handling scissors and brushes, coloring, cutting, and styling hair to support the household. She saw her savings for opening her own salon disappear, and with each passing day, frustration and disappointment grew within her. Rocky, we can't go on like this. I can't be the only one supporting this household while you do nothing, she said one evening. But her words seemed to fall on deaf ears as the pattern continued, deepening the growing divides between them. 3 months after the move, Jennifer's life took a painful turn. As known, Jennifer was the subject of jealousy and rivalries at salon, often finding herself at the center of malicious gossip and conspirances. On a stifling afternoon, the storm finally struck. Jennifer, I need to talk to you. Eleanor's voice, her boss, sounded like an ominous tolling of bells in the salon reception. Jennifer, who is in the middle of work, promptly dropped everything to answer the call. She could feel a knot tightening in her stomach, a dark premonition. Eleanor was behind her desk, her face set in a stern expression. Jennifer, she began, her eyes lacking the usual sparkle of sympathy. As of today, you are terminated from your position in the salon. The shock was so immense that Jennifer could barely breathe. But Mrs. Eleanor, she stammered, what did I do wrong? I dedicate myself fully here. I really need this job, she pleaded, desperation filling her eyes. Eleanor, however, remained impassive, her lips forming a thin and severe line. Unfortunately, you no longer fit the profile of the employees we are seeking here. Please go to HR to discuss your labor rights. You may leave. As if a bucket of cold water had been poured over her, Jennifer felt a cutting chill run through her body. All the dedication and effort she had put into that job seemed to have been in vain. She could hardly believe that the machinations of her co-workers had managed to bring her down, but little did she know that there were more storms to come. Arriving home, completely shattered by the dismissal, Jennifer longed for some comfort, some sign of empathy from Rocky, but instead, she found her boyfriend oblivious to her distress. Babe, I have a job interview tomorrow, he said casually, looking at himself in the mirror. But I needed a more presentable outfit. Could you lend me your card to buy something new? Rocky's insensitivity struck her harder than any words could. How could he be so indifferent to her sadness? But still, she maintained her composure. Rocky, I can't, she said softly but firmly. I was fired today. We will have to tighten our belts. We can't spend on a new outfit even before you get the job. You have plenty of decent clothes. Go with what you already have. I am sure what you wear won't be the deciding factor. However, Jennifer's refusal ignited rage in Rocky. Not only because he received a denial, but also because he realized that the source of his livelihood had dried up. Are you kidding me? You got fired? His eyes widened, his voice growing harsher. I know those salon gossips wouldn't bring anything good. I always said being a hair stylist would lead to nothing. Now look at you, jobless. You know, you are so petty, so limited in your ambitions. You should dream bigger, like me. Refusing to lend the card now shows how short-sighted you are. You know what? Keep your cards and your mediocre life. I deserve something better. I should have realized that with someone as poor as you, I would never have a future. Rocky's cruel words pierced Jennifer like knives. How could she have been so blind? How could she not see the toxic and parasitic man Rocky was? In a single day, she lost her job and her boyfriend. But what Jennifer didn't know was that her situation was about to worsen even further. The next morning, Jennifer woke up with a renewed resolution. She needed to take a day to breathe, to realign her thoughts and chart a new path. The severance money, she thought, could be used to start her own home business, maybe convert the garage into a small salon. However, while she was still formulating plans in her mind, the doorbell rang through the house. Opening the door, her heart sank in her hands. An eviction notice. Apparently, despite faithfully handing over the rent money to Rocky every month, he hadn't been honoring the commitments for 4 months. The cruel reality hit Jennifer like a wave. She would have to leave her home, forced to use the majority of the severance money to settle the overdue rent. Jennifer found herself moving into a tiny studio apartment. With that, her dreams of setting up a home salon crumbled. But Jennifer hadn't given up on the idea of working for herself, even though everything now seemed more challenging. She ventured out to look for a rental space but found only options with exorbitant rents. Reality began to weigh heavily on her. Perhaps she would need to find another job to survive. That's when a thought occurred to her. She remembered lending a considerable amount of $15,000 from her savings to her friend Casey. Casey had moved to Las Vegas, drawn by the promise of a lucrative job shortly after Jennifer joined Rocky. 6 months had passed since then, and Jennifer imagined Casey must be well established by now. Determined, Jennifer picked up the phone and dialed Casey's number, hoping to retrieve the loan she needed. Every penny she could gather at this moment. "Hey friends, how are you?" Casey's voice burst through the line, full of energy. "Hi Casey." Jennifer hesitated, swallowing the lump in her throat. "Actually, things aren't going so well. Rocky left me, and I got fired from the salon. He left me drowning in debt, and now I'm in a pretty tough situation." Jennifer tried to keep her voice steady, but sadness seeped into every word. "You know, the money I loaned you, I think I'm going to need you to start paying me back. I really need it right now." There was a pause on the other end on the line, an uncomfortable silence. Casey hadn't been prepared for this. She felt a heaviness in her heart, imagining what her friend was going through. "Friends, I'm so sorry what you are going through." Casey finally spoke, her voice filled with remorse. "I'm speechless, but listen, I need you to tell you something. I've been working at a casino here in Las Vegas, and I invested all the money in a bet. I know, it sounds crazy, but I feel like this is my chance. I feel like I'm going to win. If I win, that $50,000 can turn into $100,000. Casey paused, nervous about the reaction her confession might provoke. "If everything works out, I promise I will give you $50,000 in addition to the $15,000 to you as an apology," she quickly added. "And even if it doesn't work out, I will work twice as hard to pay you back." Casey felt deeply ashamed, knowing that she had put her friends in an even more difficult position. Jennifer felt a wave of disappointment sweep over her body upon hearing Casey's response. That day, she felt as if the last glimmer of hope in her heart had been abruptly extinguished. She needed a refuge, a place to forget the avalanche of misfortunes that seemed to have befallen her. Seeking some kind of solace, she dragged herself to a local bar, a place she would never normally set foot in. She sat on a weathered leather stool, the smell of alcohol and old wood filling the air. Tears blurred her vision as she waved to the bartender, ordering a strong drink. Jennifer was never much of a drinker, but on that day, she wanted something to numb her pain, something to make her forget. The bartender, a tall young man, looked at her with a mix of concern and compassion. Noticing her dissolute expression and the tears streaming down her face, he decided to intervene. "Miss, my name is Clayton," he began, his voice gentle and attentive. "I don't mean to intrude, but I don't think you should be drinking. It won't make your problems disappear." Jennifer looked up at him, her eyes red and swollen. "What is it to you?" she snapped. anger fermenting in her voice. "I'm paying, aren't I? Just bring me what I ordered and don't bother me with questions." Clayton seemed unfazed by her rudeness. He knew she was hurting, and her anger was just a shield for the pain she was feeling. So he offered his support once again. "I understand you are going through a tough time, but how about this? If you want to talk, I'm here to listen. And if, even after venting, you still feel down, I will bring your drink." Jennifer was at rock bottom, and she knew she couldn't sink any lower. So, feeling a pang of vulnerability and a need to express her emotions, she poured out her entire situation to Clayton, letting the weight of her words hang in the air between them. "You know, I'm starting to think maybe I am not cut out for success," she finally confessed, her voice devoid of any trace of hope. "Maybe it is better for me to accept reality, get a regular job, and go back to working for someone else. Everyone talks about following dreams, but maybe some people just aren't meant to fulfill them." Clayton listened to every word she said attentively, his gaze serious and thoughtful. When she finished, he responded with sincerity infused with empathy. "Who said you don't have the potential to fulfill your dreams? Other people?" he asked, letting his question hang for a moment. "No one has the right to define who you are except yourself. You can either accept their words as truths and sign your own certificates of incapability, or you can choose to start over and fight for what you believe in." Jennifer looked at him, curiosity clothing her pain. "Easy for you to say, but how am I supposed to do that without money?" she challenged. Clayton met her gaze and replied firmly, "You can seek partnerships in other salons, consider the possibility of a loan, maybe even look for a location with cheaper rent. Just don't give up. There's a great entrepreneur inside you, and every obstacle you face only serves to make you stronger. You may hear many no's, but eventually, if you persist, you will find your yes." Still wrapped in a lethargy of discouragements, Jennifer chose to heed the advice of that kind waiter she barely knew. Casey's absence, not responding to her messages or answering her calls, made everything even more challenging. Jennifer was convinced that her friend had lost all her money and simply vanished. A month dragged on, each day slower and darker than the previous one. The last of her resources was dangerously close to running out. However, despite the despair, Jennifer remained determined, scouring the city for a suitable location to rent or someone willing to embark on a business partnership with her. After a month of arduous searching, her efforts were finally rewarded. She stumbled upon a perfect location, although the rent was significantly higher than the other spots she had considered before. However, there was something in her heart that told her to take a chance on that place. Her wallet was nearly empty, with enough money only for the rent, let alone funds for the necessary products and equipment. Nevertheless, Jennifer managed to negotiate with the owner to give her until the next day to make a decision. Leaving the place, she took the bus back home, thoughts swirling around the financial dilemma. She had tried countless loans, all without success. Upon arriving at her building, a shock of surprise hit her. Sitting in the reception area, with a guilty expression, was Casey, the friend who had been in Las Vegas and whom Jennifer hadn't heard from in over a month. "Casey, is that really you?" Jennifer asked, stunned to see her friend unexpectedly in her building. "I am sorry, friend," Casey said, with a sorrowful tone in her voice. "I have two news, one bad and one good. The bad news is, well, things went wrong in Vegas, to say the least. I got fired and, well, I thought it was best to come back to New York." Jennifer, with a heavy heart, nodded in solidarity. "Casey, I'm so sorry. I know how much that job meant to you." In that moment, Jennifer felt her last hopes of recovering the money she had lent to Casey fade away. But before she could express that, Casey hurried to continue. But wait, there is good news, Casey said, with a sparkle in her eyes, raising her fingers to show a dramatic pose. Remember that bet I made? Well, I won. I didn't just win $100,000, but $150,000. And thank goodness I managed to transfer the money before getting fired. As promised, I will give you $50,000 plus the $15,000 you lent me. So, dear, $65,000 are yours. Jennifer felt like ground had disappeared beneath her feet. Those words seemed like a dream. Now, she could finally fulfill her dream of opening her own beauty salon and change her life for the better. In that moment, she realized that Casey, despite her crazy adventures, was a loyal and trustworthy friend, and suddenly, the world seemed like a slightly less cruel place. A year had passed. The dawn of the next day brought a special buzz to New York City in the early hours. News websites and major newspapers already displayed headlines. Grand opening of the prestigious Bella is Kick Beauty Institute's third location. The excitement revolved around this new location, the most luxurious one yet, promising to elevate the already established standards of the institute. The new location, situated in the upscale Upper East Side neighborhood, showcased an imposing three-story structure designed to provide a high-end service experience to its clients. The gleam of mirrors, the sophistication of the equipment, and the delicate scent of high-quality products permeated the atmosphere, signaling an unparalleled beauty experience. On the day of the grand opening, an elegant car approached the establishment, capturing everyone's attention. When the car doors opened, Jennifer and Casey stepped out confidently, walking on the red carpet laid at the salon's entrance. Their names echoed through the beauty world like a beacon of success and entrepreneurship. In a short amount of time, what started as a small beauty salon had transformed into an astronomically successful venture, pleasing even the demanding New York high society. The excellence of the services provided made it a benchmark in the beauty industry. Jennifer looked around, immersed in the excitement and satisfaction of seeing her dream becoming a reality. The success she had achieved with such speed and magnitude was something she could have never imagined. And by Casey's side, she felt ready to conquer even more. The day was a whirlwind of emotions for Jennifer, filled with unexpected surprises. Among the many familiar faces at the grand opening, one stood out in particular. Eleanor, her former boss, walked towards her with a forced smile on her face. "Jennifer, darling," Eleanor said, reaching Jennifer amidst the crowd of guests. "I always knew you had extraordinary talent for this. Unfortunately, I was influenced by a gossip from my former employees and ended up losing many valuable clients. How about the two of us join forces and invest in a new salon together? I believe the partnership will be extremely successful." Jennifer, for a moment, simply smiled ironically, shaking her head in disbelief. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You know, Eleanor," Jennifer began, the serenity in her voice contrasting with the buzz around them, "I have always given my best in everything I have done. Unfortunately, at the time, you choose to give credit to gossip instead of believing in my work. In my opinion, a true partnership is built on mutual trust, something I feel we don't have. I don't want you to think that I hold any resentment, but the truth is, I simply don't trust you, so I have to decline your proposal. But hey, if someday you are looking for a job, don't hesitate to reach out to me." And with a gentle yet firm smile, Jennifer walked away, leaving a surprised Eleanor behind. Just as Jennifer had rid herself of the uncomfortable encounter with Eleanor, she barely had time to breathe before another specter from her past emerged in the crowd. The unmistakable profile of Rocky appeared before her. He approached, a wide smile on his face, and said, "Congratulations, Jennifer. I always knew you would be successful. You know, When we fought, many words were said in the heat of the moment. I always believed in you, you know. How about we go out together sometime? His audacity was astonishing. Rocky, let's cut the hypocrisy, Jennifer began, the firmness in her voice making it clear how serious she was. I know exactly where you're trying to go with this, and I can assure you, you won't succeed. I am doing just fine, and I don't need you reappearing in my life. The only positive thing you have done for me is make me realize how naive I was. But today, I can guarantee you that I'm much happier. Her declaration was interrupted when a familiar voice sounded beside her. Is everything okay here, Lau? Clayton approached, his concerned eyes scanning Jennifer's face with unwavering grace. Jennifer smiled at her fiancé and replied, Everything is great, dear. Allow me to make the introductions. Rocky, this is Clayton, my fiancé, the man who stood by my side after you left me. Thanks to him, I didn't fall into depression. Clayton, this is Rocky, the ex who nearly ruined my life in 6 months. He came here now that my life has improved, trying to reconnect. But I think he was just on his way out. After all, he wasn't even invited, he's just a party crasher. Rocky, visibly uncomfortable and aware that his plan for reconnection had miserably failed, silently retreats. On that day, Jennifer could celebrate with immense joy the turnaround her life had taken. She didn't see her actions towards Eleanor and Rocky as revenge, but rather as a cathartic release she had held in for too long. The partnership with Casey proved to be a tremendous success, and Clayton proved to be an incredibly supportive partner in her life. Thank you for joining us today on Deep Stories. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video.